So welcome to Coffee and Conversations. This is our next segment in the interviews between graduate students and undergraduate students during this pandemic to see how the quarantine is affecting everyone and to just kind of catch up and talk about how their research and work is going during all of this. So this is Danielle, and Danielle, you can go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. So I'm a fourth year PhD student in the social psychology program at FSU. I primarily research prejudice and stereotyping and cultural interactions.
Great. So how has the quarantine been affecting your research so far?
It's affected in a couple ways. As a psychologist, I primarily study humans, so a lot of my research has stopped because I can no longer be in the lab and study humans since we need to social distance. The other aspect of research I've had a lot of more time for is writing, actually kind of summarizing what we found in past research and disseminating that. So on the one hand, my research has been disrupted in that I can't interact with human participants anymore, but also I have greater time to do the other research activities that don't involve interacting with others. So it's kind of a mixed bag.
Okay. And as far as social distancing in your personal life, how has that been going?
It's been going well. I've been pretty good about it. I haven't been out in a couple of weeks, so that's a little bit frustrating but necessary. So social distancing, I've been able to do it, but at times it's been like, I've been getting restless a lot.
So I know that you are a teacher as well. How has all of this quarantine and everything been doing as far as you seeing it from both like a student perspective and a teaching perspective?
From both a student and a teacher perspective, so I get emails from the university, like 2 students and then 2 teachers, and they've been telling everyone the same things around the same time, which is really kind of nice to know retroactively as a past undergraduate that they're keeping instructors and students updated at the same time and on the same page. So that's just kind of nice to know because I wasn't expecting that. With being on the instructor versus student side, I'm not currently in any classes, but I've been in classes recently, so if I was a student, I wouldn't be very motivated to work in my classes because it almost seems like a break. And as an instructor, I'm kind of seeing that with a good chunk of my students that it's hard to keep motivated and keep progressing in your course without like forgetting assignments or leaving it to the end of the week. So it's, I would say, not been great for students' progress to transition online versus be in person.
For sure. I've definitely noticed that. And as far as it goes for you, like completing work and things, have you had to sort of develop any new strategies?
Yeah, definitely I've had to set kind of a schedule because being at home, it's easy kind of to wander off into another room and do something else, like go get a snack or check the news or go watch TV real quick. So I find it really easy to get off task, so having a set schedule does help me a lot because I know I should be doing this at X time and I shouldn't be like playing video games. So that's helped a ton.
Yeah. Have you been worried about any kind of setback that this might cause?
Setback, perhaps with my research in that I can't collect data with human participants. So that's generally how research institutions assess your productivity and hireability, is how much research you produce. So I am a little worried that that my research is going to be set back and affect my hireability. It helps me to think about it in that everyone's in the same boat, so all of the researchers are going to be set back, but I do get anxious a little bit about potentially being set back in my research and in my like graduation schedule. So that is a thing, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. What are you planning to do after you graduate?
I'm hoping to get a faculty position at an R1 or R2 institution, or perhaps work for a nonprofit. So doing what I'm doing now at kind of a more intensive level.
Okay, interesting. And what got you interested in psychology in the first place?
Mm, well, it was my minor originally, and then I somehow got involved in research with psychology, and it was the actual putting it into practice and doing things rather than a particular course or teacher that got me interested. It's really different, like listening to a lecture versus actually doing work in the field. And doing the work in the field, I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed it so much that I knew that this is what I would want to do on a daily basis for my career. So it was really kind of the doing rather than learning that made me want to pursue psychology.
That's great. And knowing that this is definitely affecting a lot of people's, mental state and how they're feeling about, their work and themselves and their relationships and things like that. How does it feel being in the field of psychology to kind of see all of this going on?
Actually, really interesting because there's a lot of research going on right now. When the pandemic started, there was a big scramble among researchers in medicine, public health, but also in psychology, because this is a novel social situation that we don't encounter a lot. And so psychologists are rushing to do as much research as possible to learn about how people interact and cope during this particular situation, because it doesn't happen often and hopefully won't happen often. So it really kind of presents a unique research opportunity for psychologists. So there's kind of that scramble. With the mental health, that's not my domain specifically, but I know that there's been a greater increase in people doing kind of telehealth, so having like Skype sessions with therapists or mental health professionals and kind of getting help that way. I've known there's an increase in demand for that on that end.
Mm-hmm. And you focus more on the cultural aspect of psychology, right?
Yeah, cultural interactions between groups, prejudice and stereotyping, things like that.
Do you see your own area of psychology being affected at all by this?
Yeah, so with the lab I'm in with Ashby Plant, it has a broad focus on prejudice and stereotyping. So we've started a lot of work specifically on prejudice towards people of Asian descent or Asian culture, because there's been a huge uptick with that particular prejudice and discrimination towards that group. So we have started a lot of research on that to study it in this moment of time, since there's been that huge surge because of the pandemic.
Yeah, for sure. I've seen that too in certain websites and articles and things, and the way people are discussing the issue. It's been interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe not a good interesting, but what are kind of some of your fun coping mechanisms that you use to just kind of help you stay, I guess, sane being stuck inside the house?
Huh. Well, I have a physical calendar, and actually just crossing off the previous day the next morning really is kind of nice mentally, because it's like another day down and past that. So that really kind of helps me mentally, because it feels like an accomplishment, and also it makes it feel like the social distancing and quarantine is going by faster. So kind of having that physical tick is really nice.
Yeah, I've definitely been noticing that it's harder to keep track of time and like how many days are going by, because
yeah, it is.
Thing.
Like I have 1 or 2 days where I have scheduled things, and then the other days I don't. So those days kind of all clump together in one mega day.
So do you have any advice that you might give any graduate students that might have to go through something like this in the future? I mean, knock on wood that they don't, but...
I guess my advice would be, don't feel pressure to be as productive as you are in a normal situation, because it's not a normal situation. I see a lot on the internet about how this is a unique opportunity to write, and be super productive and learn a new hobby or skill. That would be great if people can do that, but also a lot of people aren't mentally there and able to be that productive or learning during a pandemic. So I guess do whatever is best for you in this particular situation and don't feel pressured to mimic other people who are doing their own thing.
Speaking of that, how has your research group been kind of communicating and coping through this?
It's varied in its degree. I've noticed that with my research group that there's sometimes lags in communication, but for the most part, we've been interacting pretty regularly through email every week, and then probably every other week, like Skype or Zoom sessions. So we've tried to maintain steady contact and keep going forward with research, but it's definitely sometimes a little bit of a struggle because sometimes people kind of go off the grid for a little bit and then get back on the grid. So it's varied, definitely.
For sure. How do you kind of balance your, I guess, like working on your research versus working on other things that you have to take care of?
I think having that set schedule and making sure that I don't devote all my time to one thing, even if I want to, and kind of spreading it out. Otherwise, it's easy for me to get kind of like focused in on one particular thing to the detriment of other things. So kind of forcing myself to work on bits of everything has really been key for me to keep doing that.
Mm-hmm. So it's kind of off topic, I guess, but why did you end up choosing to go to FSU to pursue your graduate degree?
Yeah, so I chose FSU because in graduate school in psychology, at least, so you look at the school, but you more importantly look at who your advisor is going to be, because you're going to work very closely with them. It's like a mentee-mentor relationship, or almost like an apprenticeship in a way. And so when I interviewed, I really liked my potential advisor, Dr. Plant, a lot, and felt that she had a really good outlook on research and interacting with her graduate students. So I really kind of picked the person rather than FSU when I came here. So yeah, it was just that excellent match with the research advisor.
And how has your communication with her been throughout this?
Oh, yeah, great. Very consistent, very consistent emailing. We Zoom every week at Thursday, and so we're maintaining constant communication so that we can keep moving forward with research.
Well, thank you so much for talking with me. You did a lot of great things today. And good luck completing everything and getting through this. You seem to be having a good schedule in mind, so I'm sure you'll do great. But
thank you. You too.
Thanks. Yeah.